Okay. Good evening, everybody. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Somerville Planning Board. It's February 2025. With me tonight is Mike Capuano. I'm the chairman of the planning board. With me tonight is our vice chair, Amelia Aboff, our clerk, Jahan Habib, our members, Lynn Richards and Michael McNeely. For the purpose of this meeting, we have a quorum. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Act of 2023, this meeting of the Planning Board is being conducted via remote participation. A video recording of the proceedings will be available on the city's website or by emailing. Hey, Steve, did we change the email address? Is it Planning Board? Is that new?
For receiving a recording of this meeting, it probably would be most efficient to go to Planning Board at
Instead of planning?
Rather than planning. It will get to me as the coordinator if it's sent to planning at, but generally if it's sent to planning, it's rerouted to Planning Board anyway.
Okay, this is the first time I've ever been made aware of the fact that there was a Planning Board email address. So hey, good to know. Emailing Planning Board at somervillema.gov. 2 points. One is a reminder to members of the public who are in attendance. If you want to share a comment, please state your name, street of residence, and city of residence for the record of the beginning of your testimony. But I do not believe we're going to be opening testimony for this case that has been continued. Item number 2 for the 7 people who are in attendance, many of whom I believe are involved with the applicant. But for those of you who are not, the planning board has an open seat for an alternate member, and we are seeking applicants. If you have a background in urban planning, real estate development, architecture or design, or other related professions, and I'm going to modify this, Steve. I don't like this at all. Or have an interest generally in serving the city of Somerville in as being a member of the planning board, and a passion for guiding Somerville's growth. Please send a resume and cover letter to. Now you're giving me a different email address. Is it planning@somervillema.gov or is it planning board, Steve?
It is planning. Planning will go more broadly to the planning, preservation, and zoning division. So it makes sense for applications to go to planning at.
Okay, planning@somervillema.gov. For anybody that may or may not have a professional background in planning or related issues, but interest in that obviously is paramount because that's what we do. We have only a few items on the agenda. We have no minutes. We have a request for continuance for 20 to 23 Cummings Street for the March 6th meeting. We need to continue them in 2 different forms. They're 2 separate applications. So the first one is the master plan special permit ZP 24-00046. Chair moves to continue that to March 6th, seconded by Amelia. Steve, call the roll.
Jahan Habib.
Aye.
Michael McNeely.
Aye.
Lynn Richards.
Aye.
Amelia Aboff.
Aye.
And Michael Capuano.
All right, that agenda item is continued to the 6th. The next is the special permit application for 23 Cummings Street, ZP 24-00085. Chair moves to continue that to the 6th, seconded by Amelia. Steve?
Jahan Habib.
Aye.
Michael McNeely.
Aye.
Lynn Richards.
Aye.
Amelia Aboff.
Aye.
And Michael Capuano.
All right, that agenda item is continued. The next and last item on the planning board's actual agenda, we do have a point of other business that we'll be taking up a little bit later, is 53 Chester Street, which was previously opened and heard. Testimony was taken. The planning board had made some requests of the applicant when they rejoined us tonight, and we will take them up now for the discussion and potentially a vote. For the benefit of everybody in the audience, the planning board is joining the land use committee at 6:30 for a joint hearing. That joint hearing is going to be on a separate link through the land use committee's website and on their agenda. We have one item that's going to be jointly heard. I don't expect it to take a super long time, but this meeting will be in recess until the conclusion of that. And then at the conclusion of that joint hearing with Land Use Committee, we will reconvene on this link in this meeting here to either continue any further discussion with these folks on Chester Street, or if they have been disposed of, to move on to our last item of other business. So that's a little bit of housekeeping and clarification for anybody who's in the meeting. So yes, Michael.
I just wanted to note before we started that I was absent from the last discussion for this case, and I did review the online recording and filed an affidavit with the town as appropriate.
Great. Thanks, Michael. So I would love to invite the applicant and counsel to rejoin the discussion.
Good evening, Chairman Capuano. Attorney Ann Vigorito. I'm joined by Peter Quinn, along with the applicant. So I know you gave us some direction at the last meeting, and Peter Quinn has put together, some slides. So I'm going to mute myself and have Peter, because I know we've got a short period until 6:30. So I want to get Peter right to his drawings.
Thank you. For the record, Peter Quinn of Peter Quinn Architects in Davis Square. And good evening to everybody. I need to be able to share my screen, Steve, if you could give me that permission.
Sure, let me give you that permission.
Okay, appreciate it. There we go. All right, excellent. It'll be coming up in a second. Yeah, so there were three specific things that we were asked to look at, and I think we've satisfactorily resolved them for the better, I will say, as always often happens when the planning board takes a good hard look at stuff. And one of those things, of course, was the corner and how we were treating that. If you recall, in the previous scheme, we had kind of treated this corner as another version of the bays, and had kind of some weird interior railings and a few other things that weren't well resolved. So what we've done now is to actually turn this into more like a balcony, but because of our requirement to have a facade build out that extends across the building, we've glazed it. And so now it looks like a 3-season or even a 4-season porch with a Juliet balcony at the front, as you can see, brought right out, and creates a nice open feeling to the street. A good public-private interaction, I think, and it keeps the same kind of vocabulary of the big storefront moving up through the building, kind of tying all levels together. Secondly, we took a good look at the bays, and actually went back to my notes from the Urban Design Commission, and I think I had misunderstood them as well. And what we did is we lifted the absolute top of the bay up to the frieze, or the band that goes around the top of the building, and you can see that in these elevations here as well. But that does improve the disposition of the building and how the bays come off. Previously, this is how it looked right here, where they were brought down quite a bit, and I think it made the big box behind it too dominant. So it actually, I think, is a good improvement, and I'm glad we did it. I'm glad the suggestion was there to bring this up. It makes it's a small change, but when seen in conjunction with the change that we made to the corner, it just works better. They each have their own place on the building, the bay and the corner, and make more sense and read better. And finally, the last thing we were asked to do was to take a look at the blank sides of the building, the sides that face what will eventually be firewalls between, or fire separations between buildings. And for that, we worked with our metal panel system that we had already. We delineated a little better. This is a view that you can see coming down Chester Street. This building right here is Red Bones and a Genji to the right. So, you know, kind of popping up over that would be this, you know, kind of play with these different colored panels. You know, perhaps we could go further with it. We weren't really trying to make an art statement, just to make it more visually interesting. And looks like somebody actually gave it some thought, as was suggested. And on the side, the short end, we used the same idea. The only thing is, at one point we were talking about in the meeting about putting plants along the bottom here and then trying to have things grow up on the side. We stepped back from that a little bit and thought about it, because there's really only 18 inches here. And that would mean to service those vines and to trim them and the like, we would have to go on to the other property. And that is not necessarily guaranteed. So we thought, you know, this is not bad actually to have this kind of artistic randomness on the side of the building. And we did introduce these horizontal bands as well. That gives a little bit of delineation to everything. So that's it. That's basically what we, you know, how we responded to the questions that came up.
Peter, can I ask you about the blank walls were one of my concerns.
Yeah, I remember that. Sure.
Could you, excuse me, could you let us know what the material for the new walls will be, if you have anything?
Yes.
Because right now all I see is it's graphic.
Right. Oh gosh. So it's a metal panel that interlocks, and you know, it's a very common material, and they come in. Yeah, I think you're looking for a cut sheet. Yeah, I could do that while we're talking and get that on. Yeah, bring it up if you'd like, but I don't have one prepared. I apologize for that.
Okay. I mean, the reality is that hopefully these two sides will be at some point covered by a different building, by a new building.
Yeah.
Which was the intent of not going overboard. So I mean, for the purpose of what we're talking about, I think this, you know, rises to that level of, until something else goes there. This doesn't just look like a blank wall. It looks like a wall that's about to be covered, which is fine. I get not needing to put plants there because of the space constraints.
We'll just wait for the petition to come that says, don't cover that wall. Somebody proposes a new building. Oh, sorry.
Peter, it's not a blank wall, but I don't think it's a wall that people are going to be jumping up and saying, please save this wall.
Okay. You win.
Okay, those were my concerns. I'd love to know if anybody else has any comments on the redesign or anything else that we've got going on with this application. Yeah, Amelia.
I just want to say thank you for your responsiveness to some of the points that were voiced in the previous meeting.
Yep.
I think that while each of these were small tweaks, I think it really is for the better, and especially in sort of taking the building overall. So thank you very much for your attentiveness to that. To Michael's point on the panels, I wonder if it's not a step that's already required, and I'm sorry, I can't recall offhand, if the applicant team would be amenable to a condition to sort of review the final material samples with staff, which I know is something that we sometimes do on larger projects, just to ensure they're sort of aligned with the visuals that have been presented. Is that something, just throwing that out there for the board's consideration in response to Michael's question?
I mean, I'm happy to have that done. We have conditioned that materiality have kind of final approval by staff, so that we don't get into the nitty gritty on, you know, this planning board making sure that his material is, you know, to our satisfaction. This is why we have staff to review some of these somewhat somewhat ministerial aspects of the application. So I'd be fine with that. Okay. Anybody else? No? Peter, thank you very much for, again, listen.
You're
I
welcome.
see Michael. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I just realized we have a couple extra minutes ahead of our break time. I just wanted to note for this applicant, as well as the benefit of the rest of the board, that, you know, Mr. Chair, you brought up a note during the last discussion, which was that, you know, we've asked developers to present us with parking needs, and I just wanted to echo that sentiment. I actually am very supportive of the configuration here. I do think that the developer is saying clearly there's a market signal for these 3 spaces, and I know there was some debate there, and just wanted to kind of voice my opinion on the topic as well. So, but otherwise, I think it's a great project, and I thank you guys for the application.
Thank you. Appreciate
Thanks,
that.
Michael. Anything else before we move forward? No, okay. Again, you know, Peter, you know, Attorney Vigorito, I want to thank you all and the team for listening to the concerns of the board. You know, listening obviously to the concerns of the neighbors who testified. And I'm happy to go forward with making a recommendation tonight, well in advance of our 6:30. So with that in mind, we have two votes that we need to take here. So I'll make 2 separate votes. This is for the site plan approval, which is ZP 240005-4. Following public testimony, review of the submitted materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the ordinance, I move to approve with the conditions outlined in the staff memorandum and amended here tonight. The site plan approval to develop a 4-story general building type along a pedestrian street in the mid-rise 4 zoning district, with the recommended conditions listed in the memos dated January 13, 2025, and again, as amended by discussion this evening, seconded by Amelia. Steve, can you please call the roll?
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
and Michael Capuano.
Aye. And next, the special permit, ZP 240055, following public testimony, review of materials, and deliberation of the required considerations outlined by the ordinance. I move to approve with conditions the special permit to establish a residential housing principal use along a pedestrian street in the mid-rise 4 zoning district, with the recommended conditions listed in the staff memo dated January 13, 2025, as amended by discussion this evening, seconded by Amelia. Please call the roll, Steve.
Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
Lynn Richards,
Aye.
Amelia Aboff,
Aye.
and Michael Capuano.
Aye. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And thank you
Thank
for
you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Have a great
course.
evening all.
You
Yep.
too.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so we have 10 minutes before the joint hearing. We can do one of 2 things. We can begin discussion of that last agenda item. And Steve, can you join us?
Sure.
Okay. Can you and Amelia, because it was Amelia's, I believe, suggestion, give a brief overview of what the suggestion was at the January meeting that we add on for other business, because some of us don't always recall everything that might have been raised at a particular meeting, and figure out if we can have a talk in the next 10 minutes or if it's something we should start now, continue later.
Sure. I mean, we can start now. My recollection, and Vice Chair Aboff, you may need to sort of help me here, but was that this came out of when we were discussing amendments to the rules and regulations around the deadline for written testimony. And I think it was Michael McNeely and Luke also had comments around how we might better improve the board's sort of public engagement and communication with the public. So, you know, I guess I'd just say that seemed to be sort of the general shape of the discussion we were looking to have. And then Vice Chair Boff, I'm not sure if you have anything you want to add.
No, I think that's correct. We'd been discussing either Luke or Michael had maybe raised the topic of, can we get emails directly from constituents rather than having sort of staff consolidate them for us? And we had some discussion of that. And so there was just this open-ended question of whether we could find other forums to facilitate more input and participation. So I had asked that we add it to the agenda just to ensure that sort of Michael and Luke had the space to continue that good thought that we were short on time for in January, I think.
Sure, and we can also, Luke should be back as far as I'm aware, for the March 6th meetings. We could also continue it there as well. I don't think our agenda is, I know Cumming Street is coming back, presumably, but I think otherwise our agenda is not too hectic for the 6th, so we could also, continue the discussion there if we want to make sure Luke has an opportunity to participate.
I would love to maybe have a preliminary discussion, for the next couple of minutes, just some ideas that I was ruminating on. One, so outreach to the community to solicit testimony and engagement is a good idea. I'm always hesitant to do it as a board, because I always wonder where the line is between board action and generally being good people. Insofar as the open meeting law is concerned. So right now, Steve, we abide by the open meeting law notice rules, right? And hearing notice rules, which require us, and I know we discussed it earlier today, to basically publish notice in maybe this is the Somerville Times 2 weeks before. I will be perfectly honest. That's not always where I look to find my news, and I don't know if a lot of people are finding notice there, but this does satisfy the city's obligation under the law. We publish our agendas on the city website. Apparently, the city has an Instagram page where it posts this stuff. I've got to tell you, I don't follow the city's Instagram page, which makes me probably a bad board member, but what can I say? Post more sunsets, and cool food. But with that, I'm always split on saying, yeah, of course I want to engage more with the public. I want to invite more people in, and it's been split both when we were meeting in person, and when we've been meeting in a virtual setting. It tends to have been the case that, obviously specific projects notwithstanding, kind of the same people show up. And the same people provide testimony on things that are, of note to them in their particular area of interest. Or we just had people that wanted to get out of the house and go to a meeting, right? But it was always kind of the same crew, with the exception of maybe, some neighbors for a particular project here and a particular project there. I'm not sure what else we can do. So when I was on the CPC, one of the things that we did and that I did was push out to the public saying, hey, we have 7 million, 10 million bucks of your money. Come to our meeting. And I used to post it as me, Mike, who happens to also be the chair of the CPC, on the Somerville community Facebook page, right? Didn't say anything about specifically what was on the agenda, didn't say anything specifically about this is the project that I care about and I think we should do something with. All I said was a very basic, hey guys, I'm the chairman of the CPC. We got a bunch of money. We got a bunch of good projects. Here's what our meeting is. Please come join your community. I don't mind doing something like that again. And I have done it occasionally on planning board issues where it's a big issue that, a lot of people I think are going to take interest in, that might not always find and follow some of those things. I'm thinking that I've done it when we were discussing the comprehensive zoning overhaul. I did it when we were originally talking about, I think, the Davis Square neighborhood plan, back when we had a big meeting in the Somerville High School auditorium. Those are the two that that kind of jumped out at me is where me as just a member of the public who also happened to be on the planning board, posted it on the Facebook page. Admittedly, that's also a fairly self-selected group, also, right? There are people who are in the group that don't participate. They're the same 5 people always count. Yeah, same thing as always. But it was just one more way of trying to alert people that, hey, there's a particular issue of note. And if you want to come, and here's how you make your voice heard, and here's how we can have a discussion on this. So I don't know if that's necessarily helpful for every meeting. I mean, there are a few members of the public who are in attendance tonight, but that's not always going to be the case for smaller projects or projects that don't necessarily impact everybody. So I don't know if that's something that's going to be beneficial for every time we have a planning board meeting, spreading it out on our individual social media, channels or whatnot. But I do think it's a helpful tool because I don't necessarily think the city or the planning board is necessarily the entity to do that because of the considerations of what the legal requirements for notice are. But for example, at some point soon-ish, I expect we will probably have a joint hearing with the land use committee on Data Square, on particularly the McKinnon's building and all that, right? I care about it. I'm sure you all care about it. It's been a big issue. It's made the globe. People know about that one. I might say, and I'm sure people will show up. I hope they do. But I'm thinking about just throwing something on, saying, "Hey, here's a meeting on this date with this time. Here's the link. If you want to join the discussion on this issue, we'd love to have you." So, I mean, not only have we complied with our, legal notice requirements, I, I might just take that extra step as one member of the community who thinks this deserves, robust public discussion, to do it. And I would welcome you all to do the same thing. Outside of that, I know we're kind of a minute until the land use committee, but I want to continue this discussion after we come back if you want, because I'd love to know your ideas, or if you guys just want to kick it to the 6th and have Luke join in too. We can do that too. Yeah, Lynn.
One quick, I think, clarifying question for me is I can give you guys a list of all the best practices of how to do public engagement from a planning board that other cities have done. I mean, I can easily write that up and send that off to Stephen.
That'd be awesome.
What I'm struggling with a little bit is the line between what is our role as the planning board and what is the role of, say, the Peter Quinn and the project that we just heard. So there is some aspects. I love the fact that you mentioned the comprehensive plan, for example, like that is something that is city led. That is something that absolutely we should do the whole list of public engagement. But for when we're thinking about or hearing about a specific project, I worry about crossing the line of in these activities that I'll send of, it's not really our job to solicit that degree of in-depth. So I'm wondering if we don't, as a board, itemize like, okay, so for this set of activities, this is what we do. For this set of activities, this is what we can do. All of this plus something like that. I think that's where we might want to land. And it's 6:30, so I'm
It
not
is.
giving you
It
a
is.
chance to respond, but I
Quick-
wanted to get that out before we broke.
Quick poll of all of you. Do we want to reconvene after the land use committee to continue the discussion, or do we want to kick it to the 6th, when Luke's here? And 6:31, guys, give me an answer.
I think it depends on how long the other meeting goes. If it goes to like 8:30, then no. If it goes to
If
7,
that goes to
then sure.
8:30, something went awry.
I
But-
think Luke, was the originator of this idea, and I jumped on board with a lot of support. But I think it'd be really healthy to have him, be a core
Okay.
part of the discussion.
Then in that case, let's agree to continue this to the 6th. Okay. And so when the land use committee ends, we'll just reconvene on this link and adjourn. Amelia, you don't have to join because you're gonna be recusing yourself from land use committee. You just go eat dinner.
Thank you.
All right, guys. I'll see you at the other meeting.
Thanks.
The planning board is in recess. Steve, can you make sure you keep the thing up? Yeah.
Hi, Michael.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. McNeil, you here? Cool. All right, this is all it's going to be. We have nothing else going on for us. And at 7:01 p.m., the chair moves to adjourn, seconded by the clerk. Steve, can you call the roll?
Sure. Jahan Habib,
Aye.
Michael McNeely,
Aye.
and Michael Capuano.
Aye. Planning board's adjourned. See you on the 6th. Actually, see you a little sooner than that, but I'll see you officially on the 6th.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks so much.